Jade, welcome.
Hey, long time no see.
Yes, so Jade and I worked together at Fox News for a number of years, and I've always respected her talent and her grit. I would always see you kind of running around the newsroom, up and down the elevators between floors, with your phone, your pad in hand, the high heels going. And anyone who is in media, especially in cable media, it's incredibly busy. You're kind of all over the place. And just over the years, seeing you grow, your last stop being CNBC, I've always been very proud of you. And I've been a big fan of your work and what you've done, but mostly, not even just the output of work, but knowing what the input is to get you to that end goal. And to see that is really impressive.
Oh, Diana, thank you so much. I mean, obviously, yeah, we met. I think we met in the makeup realm because
Yeah.
I was on the Fox business side, you were on the Fox News side, and you had all the entertainment guests. And I feel the same way about you. And I'm so proud of you for what you've been able to do since leaving Fox, because it's hard when you leave that corporate environment to kind of rebuild and restart. You had a child on the process. I know he's like 4, so it's a lot. So, and it takes a lot of hustle, and what you've been able to do has been nothing short of impressive.
Thank you very much. And you have a little guy now. And the whole reason that we are having this conversation is because it is work to be a parent. It is a joy. It is a blessing. People always will tell me, oh, I know your greatest accomplishment is your child. And you're like, well, yes, there's a whole other part of me too, other than a mother. So it's almost like a redefining of like, who am I now? And finding how to work, how to parent, how to exist, how to shower. I mean, it's like all these little things. And I know people say, oh, well, we talk about it candidly nowadays. I'm like, I don't think we do, because we really don't. We say it's hard, we say it's difficult, but we don't talk about like the everyday moment by moment. Like, I know you've had to carve out time and worked with childcare in order to even have this conversation with us today.
Yeah, 100%. I asked a neighbor who's she lives 3 floors up. She's a nanny of 20 years. I'm like, can you just watch him for an hour? Like, I didn't get to shower today. Like, I just rushed here. Just, sometimes it's not about, not every opportunity that comes my way, I take now. I'm very, I think about it, but I don't want to keep myself out of the game. Because, if you, in this industry, if you completely take yourself out of the game for a while, you kind of lose momentum.
Absolutely.
It's kind of hard to go back. And plus, I'm passionate about it. And I want to be the best, mom I can be. And when I do things that I'm passionate about, I'm a better mom. I'm not one of those, I can't be 24/7. I can't be a good mom 24/7 when I'm not pursuing something for myself. I've learned. In the beginning, I kind of put a lot of pressure on myself, but now I'm kind of opening myself up to do more things and to do things that I'm passionate about.
One of my friends said to me, and we were having this conversation about work, and I was thinking about taking something on, and I was like, well, I shouldn't, because I'm a mom now, and I've got to be in the game, the mom game. And he said, the best mom for your child is a happy mom. And if you're not happy, he's going to know it. So it goes back to what you said, like learning how you want to be a parent, and no one gives you a guidebook and no one tells you how it's going to feel. I remember one of my first really raw conversations was when I brought Alexander home, and I spoke to another mom who worked in corporate media. And I said, I'm bored. I'm really bored. And because everyone else I talked to was like, this is a celebration of life and it's grand and it's amazing and you're floating on clouds. And I'm like, I'm kind of lonely, and I love him. I do, but I'm also just like in a house, and I miss my old life, and I'm not really sure. And he was just, a couple of weeks old. And she said, oh my God, I was bored too. And it took me a while to really bond with him. And I wasn't even sure if I liked him, her child. And I was like, wow, that's the most honest confession someone told me. And there was no judgment. I was just like, oh, so it's not always poof, like unconditional love. I just want to be bonded to this other person in a room 24/7, that there is all this adjustment.
There's so much adjustment. And, with our careers, we go from, at 100% when you sit down, like my biggest week would be like, who am I sitting down with? Like, I mean, it might even be shallow to say, but I would think about my outfit or how I was going to present myself just because it's part of the job. Now I have no time to think about that. I just show up to events, and I did a New York Fashion Week event, pre-event last week, and I had to wear an old outfit, and my hair really wasn't that done, like it's not done right now, because I just didn't have the time to fit it all in, and something has to give. And a lot of that, you know, prep time for myself, I don't have. Like I have to focus. I'm more about what am I going to say, as opposed to thinking about what am I going to wear and things like that. Like, you know, your time is shrinked. You're always kind of rushing around, and so you go from this job where you're at 100%. You're focused on the story. You know, sometimes it takes for some of the things we do to get interviews, to get gets. It takes a lot of hustle, and it takes a lot of grit, and you know, all of that kind of gets, you don't have the time to do it. And so it is hard to balance, especially in the first year or so. You know,
Mhm.
they need the one-on-one attention. I mean, obviously when they're ready for daycare. I mean, Alexander's 4.5, you said.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't want to stay home with you right now. He wants to go to daycare. I mean, maybe he does, but you know what I mean? He wants to see his friends. He has all
Yeah.
that energy. But Landon, he's about to turn 9 months. So he's getting a little bit more mobile. So now we're starting that discussion of daycare and things like that. But before that, it's just hard to, you know, I was nervous about putting him into daycare. I was nervous about hiring a nanny. I was nervous about it all.
Of
Um,
course.
just because even if you have the means to do it, you don't trust anybody with your child. So it's
Mhm.
you go through all of that. But yeah, I always tell my friends and my sisters and my mom, like, I didn't know until I had a child what it really takes. Even when I sat down with CEOs or influential people and I always ask that work-life balance question, but it was so superficial because I really didn't know. It was just more surface level when I asked. But now I ask different questions. I hosted a female CEO forum in September, and I was probably 4 months postpartum. And I really asked about breastfeeding. And
Mhm.
because that's another journey within itself, whether you do it or not.
Yeah, I
Uh,
couldn't do it. I
yeah.
couldn't.
So,
I tried.
and yeah, so I just wanted to talk about it because like you put so much pressure on yourself, and then um, even if you are breastfeeding when you're going back to work, how do you handle it? Because it's constant. Every couple hours you have to pump, and so I asked more in-depth questions to these moms that were CEOs. Like, how did you really do this? How did you really balance it? And I think my reporting has gotten a lot better
Mhm.
because I understand it more.
Yes, I think that, yeah, you have more insight firsthand knowledge. What was for you? You and I were joking that this topic is kind of a loaded one because neither of us really have it figured out.
Yeah.
um, and you're 9 months into the parenthood journey. What have you really learned? Like, what has been the one nugget of advice for someone who might be in your shoes right now that you would say, this is what I've got so far. This is what I'm really clinging to get me through at this very moment for the elusive work-life balance.
I mean, I think this is what everyone always says, just, you know, ask for more help because you do need that mental break. You do need time for yourself to be a better mom. And in the beginning, I didn't really allow myself that much break because I was nervous. I was nervous to leave him with anyone because I'm like, even with the grandparents, I'm like, oh, they, you know, they don't remember. What if, you know, I was breastfeeding, so I also put myself the pressure on not giving a bottle for the first 6 weeks because that's what they tell you, or
Yeah.
pacifier, which was silly. I was just reading the rule book, but there is no rule book. You have to do you, and you have to see what your journey is. There's no giving formula isn't bad. Um, a combo mix, you know, if you're breastfeeding, great. You know, I think there's just a lot of pressure on the feeding aspect
Yeah.
that I found was the biggest part of the journey, which I think you just have to let your child lead the way. And when it comes to breastfeeding, I think the mental health of the mom is the most important. Like you said, and my mom says the same thing. She's like, the most important thing is a happy mom and a happy dad. It's
Right.
not all this other things that like kind of fill our day of, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to take him outside, I got to make sure I'm playing with him. Am I doing like the educational games?
Mhm.
It's not about that. It's just about your energy around the child. So I think I would say toss out the rule book, follow your own rule book. And I would, ask for help. Like sometimes it's just like sitting in the bathtub
Mhm.
for like 40 minutes and just like breathing or reading a magazine or thinking or whatever you want to do. Cause you need that in order to be, in my opinion, to be a great mom. You just need that kind of downtime, and you have to lean on people and ask for help.
And that is excellent advice. There's a scene in Sex and the City, the movie, with Charlotte, where she's in I don't know, a designer dress or something, and she's making cookies with her kids. And the one daughter has colic, the infant, and is screaming, crying. And then the other toddler takes red paint, puts it on her designer dress, and she goes into the closet and cries. And I think that moment it never resonated before I had kids. I was like, oh, yeah, that must be hard. And then I'm just like crying at that moment when I watch it in the movie, because it's the struggle, it's the reality. Your children are your greatest, they're really miracles. To think that you've brought life into this world, it's really a total miracle. And for those struggling to get pregnant who want them, like, it is a real heartbreaking journey. And my heart goes out to anyone dealing with infertility or wanting to have their own child. But needless to say, nothing in life that's worth it is ever easy. And I think it goes back to what you said about, you are your own guidebook, you are your own North Star. And the best advice I was ever given was by my own mom, who just said, hey, because I was getting overwhelmed by some nurses in the hospital telling me what to do in terms of breastfeeding and this and that. And she said, the only person you need to listen to is you, because you know what is best for that baby more than anyone. You carried that child, you helped develop that child into being fully formed. You know what is best for him. So I appreciate your honesty and candidness. And I think this is a topic that I love to revisit in another 6 months to kind of see what takeaways you have, because I know for me, my son has challenged me in ways that I have never been challenged, and has pushed my boundaries in ways I've never been pushed,
Oh my gosh.
in a sense that work never would. And I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about my weaknesses, my strengths. The small little people can really, can really undo you.
People say it's the hardest job in the world. It is. It literally, the hardest job. Just working a day at Fox or whatever kind of you're doing, like interviews, getting
That was
scooped.
luxurious. Are you
Oh
kidding
my
me?
gosh. It was, I mean, seriously, it's because it's nonstop. Because
Right.
it's just nonstop.
Yeah.
You always think, is this normal? Yes, it's all normal. It's all normal. Kids are gonna cry. The fussiness, I think, is the hardest part of it, when they're in that fussy stage and
Mhm.
want to constantly be held and things like that. But yeah, it's all a journey. It's all a journey for anyone. I know you say that people who are trying to get pregnant. I mean, my sister waited 7 years to get pregnant,
Yeah.
and it's a journey for everyone. It doesn't. It was a journey for me as well. And like now that I just saw Rihanna, and I had this moment of like, should I have baby number two? Um, but
Oh
I,
man.
I can only imagine when there's two in the mix.
Oh yeah. And my friends that had one, now they have two. I don't see them anymore. So
Oh, like 100%. You're never gonna see me. Like I can't do events at night.
yeah,
You
no,
never
it's hard. There's nothing about it. But again, it's like, it's not complaining. I don't want this to be seen as complaining, because I know how fortunate we are to have our children and how many people do want to have their own children. So I hope, our people watching realize that it's just the reality of it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to not have it all together. It's believe me, like even the Instagram versus reality post, the reality that they post is not the reality. They're not, biting their fist and silently like screaming the way that some moms are at the end of the day.
100%. I agree with you 100%. This is the best job in the world. When I say it's the hardest, but it truly is the best job in the world. But you have to kind of vent about it just to make sure you're not alone. Which is
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and mental health. I mean, there's a whole thing about postpartum too, and baby blues, and how postpartum can carry into a couple years later if it goes untreated or undiagnosed. So, I mean, these are real things. And if someone isn't feeling okay, I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but if someone is watching this and feeling really down and really depressed, it's okay to reach out to someone that you trust and love and say, I'm not feeling great, and maybe speak to a counselor. I mean, there's no harm in that. I know while I was pregnant, I was dealing with some issues in my life that were really hard issues. And I spoke to a counselor just to make sure that my stress from external stress wasn't going to affect my unborn child. And it helped. It helped me cope. So I don't think there's any stigma or shame in any of that. So for anyone going through that at this time, please know it's like totally okay to ask for somebody's recommendations or talk to someone, whether it's a counselor or a trusted friend or colleague.
no, I completely agree because it's not. You're doing a great job. Everyone goes through it in their own way.
For sure. Well, thank you again for your time.
Yeah, good to see
And
you.
it's so good to see you. And I'm thrilled for the next chapter in your life as a
Yeah.
mom, as an entrepreneur. It's always good to see an old friend.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for having me.